Welcome to Melbourne and the 25th Sandown 500 and the start of what promises to be one of the hardest fought endurance touring car series in Australia. For the next 2 months, drivers from throughout the world will race on circuits as varied as the bumpy road track of Wellington in New Zealand and the wide open spaces of the 3.1 kilometre Sandown sprint circuit today. Mixing it with international drivers like Jeff Allen and Klaus Niedwitz, both in Sierras, and of course Wynne Percy in the Works Holden Commodore, is Melbourne's own favourite, Peter Brock, who today is going for an historic 10th victory in the Sandown 500. But Brock won't have it easy because Queensland's Dick Johnson has claimed pole position for the 4th successive year. And never having won the 500, Johnson wants this race to be all his.
Well, when you get a car that's been developed as long as the Sierra has, it's fairly difficult to find any big improvements. So it's always a combination of a number of things, and that's basically what we've been looking for.
And you were saying it's pretty fast up the back straight as you raise the engine revs, the speed keeps going up.
Yeah, it seems to just want to keep going faster. I don't mind at all. It's an easy way of passing people in a straight line, but it is very, very rapid up the back straight.
This is a brand new car that we built for Sandown and Bathurst. We built it to the weight, and we really attempted to put anything that we've learnt this year into this car. It's the best engine we've had.
It's a very tough race on motor cars, and whenever you remember the race here from the year before, you always know that about 2 hours into the race, you've just got to be slogging around there. You've just got to be out there moving around, and you're going to be doing pretty well. But the problem you get, of course, is a bit of a rush of blood, and people sort of get out there and go a bit too quick, a bit too early, and you find a lot of people, I think, falling by the wayside early on. So I think keep it cool.
Yeah, that will be a very hard race because all the other drivers are really good, Peter Brock and all the others, and I think you have to make a calculation. You cannot go really fast in the beginning because otherwise you get problems with the tires, and you have to save the cars, and I think that will be very difficult to pass the slow cars, and sometimes you get an advantage or a misadvantage, and after 161 lap, I don't know, we'll see.
It's definitely going to be tough. There's a lot of competition out there between Dickie Johnson, the Brocks, and you can't discount Alan Moffat's team with Rudy Eggenberg here, so it will be a tough race, but I think we'll be there at the end, and I think we can win it.
It's a beautiful car, really. It's probably the best car here at Sandown that I've driven, and it's pretty fast at that. So, as Glenn says, I think we've got a good pairing, and it's a long race. It's as many laps as Bathurst, so we're pretty sure that, you know, with any amount of luck, we'll be there at the end.
27 cars moving away now on the warm-up lap for this 25th touring car enduro at the Sandown circuit. This is the 3.1 kilometre Sandown circuit. In other words, it eliminates the tight infield circuit so disliked of many drivers and indeed many of the spectators at Sandown. An enormous Sandown crowd has turned out for this first motor race here in 1 year. Very sad that this track hasn't been used for so long, and all looking as though it will be a tough battle between the pole position holder there, Dick Johnson on 17, with his co-driver John Bowe. Glenn Seaton and George Fury have taken second position to them. Johnson a 1:15.24. Fury's Seaton in car 35 for Peter Jackson, 1:15.48. Third fastest, Kevin Waldock with a very good engine in the yellow car there. It's number 28, and he's driving with Mike Preston. Fourth fastest is number 16, Wynne Percy and Neil Crompton in the Holden factory team Commodore V8 normally aspirated. Fifth fastest, Greg Hansford and German Klaus Niedwitz, car 9, ANZ for the Alan Moffat team there in the background. And sixth fastest, starting beside them on the third row of the grid, Peter Brock, the man that's won it 9 times, and his co-driver Andrew Miedeke, Ford Sierra number 5, their time 1:16.41. Now Hansford Niedwitz 1:16.41 as well, so these times are really close together. Seventh fastest Jeff Allen and Paul Radisich, the second of the Shell team cars, number 18, 1:16.44, and Charlie O'Brien, David Parsons in car number 6, 1:16.59. That's the big Toyota Supra. That's being driven by John Smith and Drew Price. But ninth fastest, Chris Lambden and Greg Crick in the Nissan Skyline GT, being looked after by the Nissan factory team in the sense that they do the engine overhauls for them, but privately run it on behalf of Bow Repairs. 10th fastest, Larry Perkins and Thomas Mazera didn't take part in the top 10 run-off yesterday, but they're in the Holden Commodore number 11 that was damaged by Thomas Mazera in the warm-up laps this morning. 11th fastest, Andrew Bagnall and Robbie Francevic from New Zealand, who gave a couple of years heavy campaigning in the Australian Touring Car Championship. 12th fastest, John Smith and Drew Price in the Supra. And then the fastest of the Toyota Corollas is number 19, John Faulkner, and Neil Bates, rally driver, in number 71, 2.5 seconds faster than they've been previously, 17th grid position. All now in readiness. It's 161 laps of the 3.1 kilometre circuit. That's 499.1 kilometres. This is a tense, tough race. The warm-up to Bathurst, but a race in its own right, and very much a lot of glamour associated with it in this motorsport mad Melbourne. Big field of Sierras, not so many Holden Commodores, funnily, for this one. No official factory Nissan Skylines. All are in readiness now. Green flag from the rear of the grid. A fine day at Sandown, but cool air. And this, the tense moment for drivers. 27 of them as they blast away, and it's a great start from the front row of the grid by the Seaton Fury car on the outside, getting away better than Johnson, who said in qualifying yesterday he had 640 horsepower, and he's still got plenty of them left as he G-tunes the car slightly for this long-distance race and goes into the lead into the first corner. With us throughout the Holden Commodore into third place, Win Percy. As the field gets fairly scrappy there, it's Brock fourth. Fifth is Waldock. And with us throughout this telecast will be the reigning this year's Australian Touring Car Champion, Jim Richards, giving his insight as to what the drivers are doing and what they should be doing, perhaps, if the two don't agree. And Jim, this is the moment where suddenly the butterflies go and it's action, and but hearts are pumping, aren't they?
Yes, they are. Well, it's a matter of just trying to be relaxed, but trying to exert as much pressure on the opposition as you can in the early laps to make a break.
How likely is it to overstretch the car, the tyres, when everything's cold and the driver's brain isn't fully in automatic mode?
No, this is a very important time of the race for the drivers, and they understand, obviously, that this is the start of the race. You've got to get up there. You've got to make sure you don't come into any body contact to stop any unforeseen pit stops, and just get into a mode where you can lap nice and consistently fast.
This is a brand new car from the Shell team, Dick Johnson, built for this race. As I say, 640 horsepower with 3 atmospheres of boost in qualifying yesterday. Gearing it for something like 280 kilometres an hour up the back straight, 305 at Bathurst, an absolute rocket. He had a rev limiter on it yesterday, Jim, of 8,200 up the back straight. When they took it out to 8.5, it just pulled 8.5. It added on another 300 revs and the kilometres an hour that were equivalent to that. It just wants to go.
Yes, well, obviously, the increase the boost and you increase your speed quite alarmingly, and, you know, you can go up to sort of point half a bar of boost is probably 80 horsepower.
So, Johnson doing very well. Glenn Seaton's in behind, who was beaten by the co-driver that he's with today, George Fury, recruited into his team just one race ago. And Brock's into third, pegging out the Holden Commodore of Win Percy. Then it's Jeff Allen. Then it's Klaus Niedzwitz, the second Moffat team car. That's Charlie O'Brien. Kevin Waldock qualified well, back at the moment there in the yellow car. This car starting to jump away ominously, Jim Richards.
Yes, it is. Dick will be trying pretty hard for the first 10 laps to try and make a break, but I think Win Percy's going extremely well. He's only a little way back there and looking good.
And Brock is in trouble. I think he hasn't come through. If he has, he's dropped several placings. 2, 4, 6, the best mobile team car. And Johnson is jumping away.
And with me is Peter Brock. And Peter, what's happened?
Well, the front suspension strut, there's a nut that holds the strut in at the top, and it appears as if it's stripped and allowed the strut just to fall out. I've never seen anything like it before in my life, but we both felt there was something a little bit funny this morning in the warm-up. Couldn't trace it, and that's what it was, lo and behold. So I'll hop in the second car now to have a drive, and we can still win this race.
So getting in the second car, Peter, means that there's still a chance you can take your 10th victory.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, absolutely. It's sort of like interchange in footy. We're right.
But this is the battle second. Third place there, car 18. 35, the one in second place, the Glen Seaton. Peter Jackson Ford Sierra Cosworth Turbo, to give it its correct title, and to be shared later by former Australian rally champion George Fury, who in fact made his circuit racing debut here at Sandown, running a rally car many years ago in the back part of the field in sports sedans. Went on then to be a Nissan team driver, which he was for a long time, and then got unhappy earlier this year with the situation and dropped out and got the drive after doing 2 rallies earlier this year and winning both of those in the Australian Rally Championship. We'll see him at the wheel later there of the blue car 35. M3 BMW in behind them, one of the lapped vehicles. Now 11 laps completed by the first 10 cars. Another of motor racing's quiet gentleman, Wyn Percy from England, who's resident these days in Melbourne, on behalf of Tom Walkinshaw, getting the Holden factory team effort going. He says Wyn can always somehow, somewhere, and I don't quite know where, find something extra out of this car. He really is a very good driver. Is that the way, Jim Richards, he strikes you, Wyn Percy, that he really is in the clean way of the top racing drivers? He just finds time without knocking the car about.
Wyn's an extremely good driver. He's obviously had all the experience in the world. I mean, he's driven the Group C Jaguars at Le Mans. He's driven in touring car championship races around the world and won the European Championship on several occasions. But he's very, very clean. He never seems to be doing it hard, but you can guarantee that whenever he's driving, he's just driving absolutely flat out.
As into the pits comes the Shell team car, and now out of Dick Johnson, the race leader, back to the garage. Dick has failed again to win this race. That sort of car being wheeled away, at least $1 million a year budget to run it. So now all the pressure for Shell goes back onto this car in second place, and this is the race leader, Glen Seaton, in car 35. Up onto the Jones, Heather Spurl, Holden Commodore again. And 20 laps covered by the new race leader, Glen Seaton. This makes the battle for the lead somewhat more significant and closer, Jim Richards.
Yes, well, this is what happens. Obviously, in a race where you try and get a gap at the start, you know, it could be just a silly little simple thing which is split Dick out. But obviously, if it is out for good, he will probably join car 18, and so he can continue to run reasonably close to the front. But I think the interesting thing is that with these 2 Sierras out the front battling away, Wyn Percy is looking extremely good. I mean, the Commodore isn't stressed anywhere near as much as these little 2-litre turbocharged cars are. So right at the moment, I'd say Wyn is looking extremely good.
4 pole positions in a row, and Dick Johnson, you still can't get a win out of Sandown. What happened?
It's just, you know, something fairly simple. It's just done a gearbox bearing, you know, and it's got really noise. There's no way knowing it. Just keep going and destroy a $20,000 gearbox.
Your sprint from the start was quite sensational. You were, what, 7 seconds up at the time you pulled out?
Yeah, actually, that was doing it fairly easy. You know, we were just taking it easy. We didn't want to sort of damage the car. And obviously, it's not looking real good at the minute, but we still got one car going. It had a brand new gearbox last night, so it should be okay.
Brock's already done his 05 car, and he's planning to step into the other vehicle. Is there a chance you'll get into your second car?
Every chance in the world.
16 seconds back from the third-placed Holden Commodore to this battle for 4th and 5th place. 6.33 seconds back from the leading pair, Glen Seaton in number 35, and the second Shell team car, number 18 of Alum, to the third-placed Holden Commodore of Wyn Percy. So 16 seconds, 22 seconds then from the race lead. This pair in 4th and 5th place. How does that calculate up, Jim Richards, in terms of making up time later, possibly?
Yes, all the cars at the front of the field are still well and truly in the race. All they've got to do is have a 10-second longer pit stop, and they've virtually made the time up.
Larry Perkins is getting a bit serious here.
Yes, it would be normal for the tyres on the Sierras to go off slightly quicker than what the Holden would, because of the fact that the turbo power comes in a lot snappier and a lot harder than what the Commodore's does.
Glenn Seaton, 35. Jeff Allen, 18. First and second, going out towards 7 seconds over Win Percy and the Holden Commodore in third. And lots of traffic, and there's the factory Toyota Supra ahead of the factory Toyota Corollas. And class leader in the small car class is 78. Once upon a time I'd have said Brian Sampson in 78, but it's Fallen Radcliffe at the moment in the car leading, as I say, the small car class. Dunlop, the predominant tyre here. There's a couple running on Bridgestone and not many on Yoko's.
No, I think there's only 2 teams this year that were running on Yokohamas, and that's the Nissan team and Glenn Seaton's team. And also, no, that's a lot, yes.
Yes, that's the lot on Yokohama. So in the absence of the Nissan team, privateer Nissan there, Bow Repairs looking after them. But in fact, car 23, Chris Lambden, running on Dunlops, like something like 97% of the field. Everybody else, including our action cam car, the Bow Repairs Nissan Skyline Turbo, 460 horsepower, kart driver Chris Lambden, age 35, and journalist and very much amateur racing driver, doing a good job in this car that's... We'll have a look at our lap chart. Car number 23 in 8th place at the moment. And absolutely what's wrong with 8th place? There's nothing at all for a private Nissan Skyline that now has a later model car to supersede it.
I think at this stage in the race, Chris lying in 8th place is a very, very creditable performance, because I think he would have been happy if he was in the first 10 the first half of the race. And to be an 8th this early is great. If he has a trouble-free run, it wouldn't surprise me to see him in the first 5.
Percy goes through, and the Corolla didn't know he was there.
No, I think the Corolla thought that he could actually get through the corner before Wynn got to him. It's strange, you know, a few years ago, across the top of the mountain at Bathurst, there wasn't a lot of cars that could beat some of the smaller cars across the top of the mountain. Well, nowadays, it's all changed. Now, the big cars are the quickest cars everywhere, and I think some of the drivers think in the smaller cars that because they're smaller and lighter, they're going to slip around the corner a little bit quicker. But unfortunately, it doesn't happen now.
Yes, I was saying that jokingly to Dick Johnson yesterday, and his eyes... Oh, the third-place car's gone! And he's looking for somewhere to go. It's Wynn Percy. He may not be able to drive out of there. His eyes were agape as he saw the car go round backwards.
Yes, no, he just locked back brakes up, which obviously has caused him to spin around and go straight into
mechanically, the fact that he's got straight out? Do you think he knows that it's done an engine or something?
He knows there's no way he'll get out of there. Once you're in those marbles and it's up to the axles, you cannot move it. It'll take a truck or something. Yes, he's changed down a gear and just locked the back brakes up. Around he's gone, straight off, backwards, into the sand trap. Yeah, unfortunately, he will not get out of there.
Race leader, Seaton. Second place, Allen. And have they ever been any further apart than that? They have just lapped 6th place. That's Waldock. Waldock, who qualified 4th in car number 28, sharing the car with Mike Preston, a man who at the age of 40 sold his business. It was turning over some 25 million a year and blowing things up. Sold the business and went on motor racing. And the real trick in that car is apparently the engine builder, Campbell Little.
Well, Campbell, of course, used to work with Tony Longhurst's team, and he has always been renowned at getting some very, very good horsepower out of the car. But having said all that, I think Kevin is doing a fantastic job in the car. You know, the more horsepower you get in these cars, the harder they are to drive. And for a guy of his experience, you know, he's done extremely well. I would say pit stops should be starting to happen reasonably shortly at this rate.
Brad Jones, Heather Spurl, and there's Klaus Needswitz. He's back in third place now, or one which should say up in third place. The demise of Wynne Percy, so sadly and unfortunately, that's quarter race distance, at least a quarter of the way through the 41st lap is. And Allen back onto in car number 18, the race leader, and going into the lead, is he not?
Yeah, Glenn was balked coming out of that corner behind a slower car, and Jeff took advantage of that, whipped across the inside and pulled past him.
0.4 of a second, 0.4 of a second, and on lap 40, start of 45, the race lead changed here. It previously changed when Dick Johnson pitted at the end after having led the race on lap 18. So from lap 18 to 44, the order was reversed, and now car 18, a Shell team car again, leads. Can he hold the lead? Bit of incentive, Jim Richards, to get out there and to hold it now, get the cool air, and say to Seaton, you follow.
Yes, it is. It's not going to matter at this stage, you know, whether they run for another 20 or 30 laps in the places they are now, because, you know, they're very, very close. That lead can change again the minute they turn into the pit road, so it's not a problem at the moment. But Glenn was balked coming onto the pit straight, and that just allowed Jeff to sneak past.
They're just about to comment to say, well, he's back with him, and that the second odd that it had gone out to, first to second, now counted for nothing again. And suddenly it counted for everything because they reversed the lead. Car 53 is the BMW of Mike Twigden and Brian Bolwell, the 323i. And the race leader has gone now, but should get going again. What was that red bit that came off the car?
I think it may have just been something on the side of the track.
That was the corner where Wynne Percy went off. Let's have a look again at this one. The race leader now, Wynne Percy over again. Except that, just kept it on the racetrack.
That's another example of just a little bit too much rear brake. The track is obviously getting a little slippery down there, and just going in a yard or two too much, and the back brakes just lock up and around it goes.
Well, dear oh me, won't Glenn Seaton be delighted now? And won't Dick Johnson back in the pits be saying, the job is bigger and harder now? But lots to be done, says Dick. The race leader's trying to make up time. He's hassling, and he's trying the disincentive ploy at the moment. Put on as much as you can and try and demotivate the others as much as possible now that they've lost a bit of time. In fact, rather than relaxing, I think he's in a rush.
Yes, what happens is he'll be very, very close to a pit stop. He'll have a light fuel load. What rubber he's got left on the tyres, he'll be giving it everything, because he's going to come in and change tyres shortly, so he can afford to go for broke at this stage of his stint, because really he's got nothing to lose. He'll be into tyres shortly and probably a change of driver.
Second place car comes in for its first pit stop. Jeff Allen out. Neil Lowe doing the windscreen squirting. Kiwi, as he's called in the team, former racing driver himself, now runs the operation.
Changing brakes already, Will, so that's ominous.
And John Smales.
First scheduled stop of the race now for the Dick Johnson team after all the dramas that's happened to most of the lead teams up until now. In fact, the disc brakes went on in less than 30 seconds. So a brake pad change in less than 30 seconds. 37 seconds gone by now as John Bow behind the wheel of the car learns what the car 18 is all about. He's not driven it before. This team using Ferrado DS11 pads, which they've been using for years and years. These were the things which were originally developed for Bathurst. 52.41 seconds the stop, and John Bow goes back out into the race.
And Larry Perkins in car 11 back in what was 4th place is not come round. It looks as though we might have lost. Car 11 in 4th place.
55 laps down indeed. Well, and Klaus Niedzwitz is in the pits and is handed over to Greg Hansford. This team has not taken a brake pad change. Hansford is back out in 31.07 seconds, and right in front of Hansford as he goes out, you can see where Larry Perkins is. He's been in the pits for almost a lap. Behind us, the mobile team car, the Medici labelled car, but in fact the car that's being driven by David Parsons is now in the pits. And it's Charlie O'Brien out of the car, and Peter Brock back in the mobile team car, the second car, the 6th car, and Brock's now been in the pits for something like 40 seconds. Drop down, and Peter Brock is back in the Sandown 500.
The crowd will love it, and it's a very big crowd here indeed today.
Man who is the most incredibly upset Larry Perkins in the business. What's happened, Larry?
Well, it's just one of those things, you know, routine pad change, and one pad stuck in, and you know, you just got to live with the time that it takes to get the piston unstuck and pushed back, and it seems like an eternity, but...
Well, how much eternity did you lose?
I don't know. I think it was about 4 minutes, you know. Too long.
Bad luck, Larry.
Well, something's wrong. Maybe bad preparation, you know. Yeah, but anyway, that's life. Still going.
In comes Kevin Waldock, the car that qualified 3rd fastest and was in 4th when it pitted. Waldock out.
And another brake pad change coming up for the pits now, because Waldock is out. And young Mike Preston, the Group E driver who showed so much promise last year, didn't get a drive in anything this year, but has been going to each of the Australian Touring Car Championship rounds and has been understudying Kevin Waldock, and now finally gets to drive in anger, gets in the motor car. This is an efficient stop. Waldock is as much a good racing driver, surprisingly for one with so little practice, as he is a good team manager. Waldock is a very organised businessman, and it shows in the way his team's going about this. 43 seconds, and they've got both brake pads back in, both front wheels going back on. Waldock has got his co-driver, Michael Preston, strapped in the motor car. Everyone's finished with the refuelling. One more circlip to go on. The job's done, and they're away in 58.83 seconds.
Not at all bad, and look at the way, Jim Richards, they just crawl away until the boost comes up.
Yes, you really can't afford to go over the pits too hard and fast these days because of the amount of people and the amount of fuel that's around. But it does take a while for the boost to come up on the cars.
So here's some revived cars. There was the Perkins car. There's the Waldock car with Mike Preston at the wheel that had previously been into the pits. Chris Lambden's Bow Repairs Nissan Skyline running well, and that car, number 23, in 6th place. 6th place. What a credit to the privateers in that Skyline. And here's the car with Miedeke on the windscreen is number 6, but Miedeke's in 05. Don't get confused. That's the Charlie O'Brien car that's to be shared with David Parsons, and Peter Brock is at the wheel back at Sandown. And car number 18 has just gone down the straight and is out of the race. And he's on fire. And the fire is extinguished again. Their weekend has come apart in the biggest possible way. Dick Johnson said yesterday, 250 grand to build a new car number 17. If they work right here, we've really improved the situation. We'll go to Bathurst with this package.
Dick, where do you reckon it started to go wrong this weekend?
I don't think it did, actually. It's just pretty unfortunate. We've got obviously some problem with these gearboxes that have just been rebuilt. We've never had a gearbox problem before, and now we've done 3 in one weekend, which is really, you can smell a rat there somewhere.
You're hearing that that's a gearbox that went wrong with Bauer, yeah?
Oh, it sure was. It exploded in a big way, but that's just the way it goes. It's typical of the Sandown 500 and me, I think.
That looked like a gearbox, Jim Richards.
No, gearboxes don't normally start running on 3 cylinders before they start smoking.
The race leader, who's picked up a lap with the pit stop. My God, can we believe this? Number 35, into the pits 05, that doesn't matter.
It'll be interesting to see if he changes brakes here or not.
No brakes for the Peter Jackson car 35. And out of the pits in about 35 seconds. Quick stop. And a better part of a lap in front of Needswitz, who went through and got onto the same lap as he. And so did Brock in 6.
Yes,
Brock in 6 being 3rd now.
Yes, as George came out of the pits and passed the start-finish, Greg Hansford was going up the back straight, so he's over half a lap in front at the moment. It will take a little bit of time for George's tyres to warm up, so the first couple of laps won't be that fast.
Jim Richards. And down on the pits, though, before we start chatting again, John Smales.
Glenn Seaton, a 33.41 second stop, not bad, and no pads. Are you going to need a pad change during the race?
Well, we'll have a little bit of a look again, hopefully in the next stop, but at the moment the pads are wearing good, so I don't think we will have to.
What seemed to happen to the Allen car in front of you after he passed you?
I got balked in the straight corner coming onto the straight, and that's when Jeff got past. Then he locked up the back brakes at the end of the straight and went around, so that's where we gained it back.
Everything going to plan from your viewpoint?
Absolutely fantastic. Car's perfect.
You'd be fairly happy at this stage, I reckon.
Absolutely wrapped.
As we see Lambden in 5th spot now in car 23, we can only stand and salute and show great respect to the effort they're putting in. And hasn't yet pitted.
Well, that's looking extra good for Chris, and I really hope he goes well because he deserves it.
Brock doing it in 6, having let go car 05 on lap 2, got into 6, when it pitted at the end of its first stop, Charlie O'Brien taking it through, now looking for 3rd place. And 05, the car that Brock got out of, and lost an enormous number of laps, I would have thought. But anyway, it's moved into 9th place. It's 7 laps down, but it's in 9th place. That tells us something about the way the field is splitting up somewhat. 7 laps down, and in 9th place, car 05. Fraction of a second down to 2nd place, number 9, is Brock in 6. And the obvious thing to check now is what is he doing for car 35, George Fury in the race lead. He comes, 2nd place as the Lusty car is round. Number 22, the Graham Lusty Peter Jansen car in trouble again. And Brock is 2nd. Hansford is 3rd, and I wonder now, as they come up to a slightly dicky situation here with Lusty, I wonder if Hansford would be happy to do this and try and follow Brock and learn something.
Yes, I think he would. If he can cling on to Brocky and run at his pace, Greg will be more than happy. It doesn't really matter whether you're 2 car lengths in front or 2 car lengths behind. You know, you can have a real good go towards the end of the race, and that distance isn't going to make any difference.
It certainly isn't. If Hansford couldn't find that time, and I would think he could go close to it, he's a smart enough man to know that now's not the time to go stretching for that fraction of a second.
No, he won't try too hard and sort of endanger the position of the car. You know, there's still over half the race to go yet, and there's miles of time. You know, anything can happen at the front.
And Needswitz to come back into the car too, who could find a little bit of extra time. And 5th place down in the pits, John Smales.
And Chris Lambden coasted into the pits with just 5 laps short of half distance. The team was a bit concerned down here. They thought, can he do it? Can we get away with only 1 pit stop? And they tried really hard, everyone just crossing their fingers down here. But ultimately Lambden, who'd been making quite a number of motioning movements with his hand, telling people something was wrong with the car. Finally brought it in with 5 laps to go. Greg Crick now gets into the motor car. It's also having a pad change. And on the front right-hand side, just a little bit of difficulty in persuading the pad loose. In fact, a lot of difficulty. You couldn't put more effort onto that if you tried, and this man certainly is trying as he now gets the new disc pad in. Asbestos gloves, necessary obviously because of the immense heat that's generated around the front of the motor car here. 55 seconds go. And Brick now just about ready in the driver's seat. 64 seconds, time for a clean and clear to the windscreen. Still, remarkably, fuel going into the car, but then again, probably requiring one extra churn to everyone else who would have been using about 105 litres. This car, obviously, right on the limit of being dry as it came into the pits. And it's fuel that ultimately holds it up. And it's away in 1 minute 24.77 seconds.
This car has been in the race lead for a fair part of the race, certainly not all of it. It's been racing for 1 hour 56 3/4 minutes, so not far short of 2 hours. And more importantly to them, the number of laps they've covered is 88. On to the 89th lap now, and they have 161. Fairly daunting number. And in behind them is number 11, Larry Perkins, is in 5th place, the Holden Commodore V8. That had that brake change problem. It's 3 laps down. And major part of a lap lead to Fury in 35, being chased, car being very aggressively driven by Peter Brock. Car 6. Down in the pits, John Smales.
And drama in the pits for Glenn Seaton and George Fury. Glenn, what's going on out there with George at the moment?
He's just circulating at a pace that we know we can finish the race. And at the moment, we don't know if we need to change rear brake pads, but we're pretty sure we will have to. So that could make a fairly good race at the end.
Well, have you practiced changing your rear pads?
That's right, we've practiced changing, and it's probably going to take up 30 or 40 seconds. So it'll be an interesting race in the end.
Well, if Brock doesn't need pads and you do, then of course he's going to be mighty close to you towards the end of the race.
That's right, and it'll make it an interesting race.
Would Brock be worrying now in car 6 that he's not making any real progress against 35?
Yes, I suppose. I mean, he wouldn't be worrying unduly because he really can't do anything about that size gap. What he's got to do is try and keep going consistently fast, and the only thing that really can happen is if Glenn comes in and changes brakes, and Brock doesn't. Obviously, he's going to gain a lot of time there.
Commodores galore there. The budget man's touring car Group A racer, the 100 grand race car. This is the $250,000 race car. And this one is in 6th spot, Andrew Bagnall, Bobby Francis. What an aggressive guy Francevic was in the Volvo Turbo, and what life and vigour and effort he gave the Australian Touring Car Championship when he was campaigning that car some years ago. He won it back in 1986 for Volvo. Some bloke called Jim Richards won it the following year for BMW in an M3, and Jim had won it the previous year to Francevic in a BMW 635, and Dick Johnson won it in 88 and 89. And there is Greg Crick round on 23, the car in 7th place when it went round, and here 3rd placed, number 9. We're just going to say that they're about due for their 2nd pit stop. This is Klaus Niedzwitz back in the car, over from Greg Hansford. Under bonnet check on oil. Larry Perkins ready in the background to get into his Holden Commodore to take over from Mazira. Car number 11 that's in 5th place. So this will be another part of the race that could become fairly interesting. Niedzwitz to chase. The Mobil team car in front, Peter Brock, but to hand over. Brake pad change here on 9, which it didn't have early on. And John Smales.
And yes, well, the brake pad change is going on. It's been going on now for 42 seconds. It's okay on the right-hand side of the car, just about finished. Still some difficulty on the left. Neesmith's the fastest man into a car I've ever seen. This guy is the consummate professional. He doesn't muck about. He doesn't care what's going on outside the car. He just wants to be in and ready, and that's exactly what he is. Working around the front of the car is Rudy Eggenberger, the Swiss ace that Alan Moffat brings out to help him win the Sandown 500, and then on to Bathurst. Eggenberger will go back to Switzerland and then come out, back out again for the Tooheys 1000, and the car leaves in a slow time of 70.83 seconds.
Klaus Neesmith now then out in car number 9. Still in third place. Immediately behind him is the Waldock car, number 28, the Playscape Racing yellow car. That's Mike Preston at the wheel at the moment in that car. But they didn't lose third place. Here Greg Crick has gone in after having gone round in the Bow Repairs car and decided that perhaps they need some new tyres and other checks done. Second place here, number 6, Peter Brock at the wheel of the car that Parsons and O'Brien started in the race. There's O'Brien not ready to get into the car as one of the lusty cars goes off yet again. We go to John Smales.
And Peter Brock will not get out of the motor car. Peter Brock wants to win the Sandown 500, and he's staying in the car. He is so hot that at the moment Charlie O'Brien is just pouring cold water all over Peter Brock's racing suit to try and cool him down, as now brake pads go into this car as well, and this is a hot stop. 29 seconds and the pads are in, at least on the front right. It would appear there's a small jam on the rear left-hand side of the motor car, trying hard to get that wheel into position, and this has now locked Peter Brock off. Fuel's in the motor car at 48. Oh, what a shame for Peter Brock. This was going to be the world's hottest stop, and they can't get the rear right-hand wheel, left-hand wheel rather, on the motor car. Now on, and Brock's rolling at 59.4 seconds, but that's probably about 15 seconds more than he'd hoped for.
So not the stop they'd hoped for. Could have been worse, certainly could have been a little bit better. And I thought Greg Hansford looked a bit rolly on his pins when he got out of car 9. And Brock's apparently a bit the same way, Jim Richards. And he's still in second place, though.
Yes, these cars are very hard to drive fast, and of course, being turbocharged and the motor in the front of them, the turbos develop a lot of heat up through the floor of the car into the cabin of the car, and you really get dehydrated. And if you haven't got a lot of fluid in there to drink, you can really be feeling the pains, I can tell you, after you've done a long stint in one of these.
Do you feel the actual temperature up through your boots and the legs of your driving suit?
Yes, you do, and that's where it all comes in. And of course, not so much Peter, but when you're following a turbocharged car also, all the air that you get is all red hot.
Yeah. So Peter Brock doing a double stint here, driving on to the end, he hopes, as we see Larry Perkins' car, number 11, fifth, sorry, when it pitted. In behind and down on the pits is Smales.
And Larry Perkins now back into the car. 18 seconds gone so far on the stop. A pad change again. So this is the second brake pad change for the Holden Commodore of Larry Perkins. Remember that they actually jammed the pad in the caliper on the first change and cost Larry more than 2 laps. And now Thomas Mazzera out of the motor car, Perkins in, but 40 seconds gone, and again a massive struggle on the front right-hand side of the motor car to try and free this pad. Exactly the same problem that happened on the first stop, and it's occurred for Perkins again. Finally the pad gives way. At 54 seconds it gives way. Perkins frustrated inside the motor car. The mechanic now trying to force it in with his hand. There's no way known that the tools are working. It's finally in, the pad seated. It's 69 seconds and the wheel goes back on the car. Now even the wheel won't seat properly. The car's fired up, but the wheel is not seating properly on the hub. Finally it goes on. 83 seconds gone. Frustration for the team. 90 seconds coming up. Perkins wants to go. Now one of the rattle guns won't work. Finally it goes. 1 minute 37 seconds. seconds, and Larry Perkins crashes back into the race, almost crashing into the pace car as he leaves the pits.
And as we see the ANZ car now with Niedzwitz in the wheel coming down, that's in third place at the moment. It's still in behind the Peter Jackson car 35 with George Fury still driving. Brock doing the double stint. Third place is Niedzwitz now in the white ANZ car number 9. Fourth is the yellow Playscape Sierra 28 of Baldock. And Mike Preston's still driving that. Larry Perkins is still holding fifth place in car number 11. He's done 109, one lap down on that to car number 38 is Bagnall and Francevic, and in the pits it's John Smales.
And for the Niedzwitz-Hansford car, a very simple solution. The axle has just fallen out of the rear end.
This has been a great effort in car number 28, the Playscape racing car. Kevin Waldock, the man who, when he got behind Andrew Wiedeke and let off a few bits of TNT and so on at Bathurst, a bit of spectacular sort of promotional fireworks, people thought, well, he was a bit of an amateur driver. Just because you take up motor racing at age 40, it obviously doesn't matter so much that if you've got the money to do it, the sense to do it fairly well and to listen to the right sort of people and get a very good engine builder. Larry Perkins here, now in the car that was zero damage slightly this morning. Fourth place, Holden Commodore, and one can only speculate on what might have been if Wyn Percy hadn't spun the healthier and faster Holden Commodore that was several places ahead of that early on in this race. But indeed at the time he was behind Glenn Seaton, but not very far behind him, and Seaton's done a wonderful job. Nice little section of circuit there, Jim Richards. Let's have a look at it in terms of approximate speeds and some of the gears you're using. Try and give us an idea again of what looks nice and smooth and so on really is going on in all the violence and the noise and the lurching that's going on inside these cars on the 3.1 kilometre lap of Sandown.
Well, as Glenn's coming in here past the start-finish line, obviously he'll be getting into fifth gear. Going into the corner at the end of the main straight, he'll be probably going back into third gear.
What sort of speed would he hit there?
I would say along the straight about probably 240 kilometres an hour.
Third gear around here.
Yes, he'll be go back into second gear with this little S's through here.
What sort of speed can you pull in second gear, say, in your cars, assuming it's similar to this?
Well, I don't know, to be honest. We only calculate RPM, and we really got no sense of speed in the cars. But you know, I suppose around the faster parts of the track, you're probably doing over 160, 170 kilometres an hour around the bend, especially at the top of the hill where Glenn's going now.
And this man in car 6, Mr. Peter Brock, is surely putting in the sort of performance that has made him a folk hero to so many Australian motor race fans. Trying as hard as he possibly can, working almost on automatic pilot now. Dehydrated, tired, looking for air that he can't get with a car that's in far from 100% form, but making ground on the race leader and trying, he hopes, all the way to the end of this 25th Enduro Classic at Sandown. 10 laps remain now for this man in 35, Glenn Seaton. Very shortly, we'll have a gap back from him to second place, Peter Brock, the man who unlapped himself on Seaton from being more than a lap behind and then set off like the totally professional racing driver that he is. He's on his 152nd lap now, Seaton. So he has this, 9 others remaining. Brock set off after. He took up the challenge of the chase. And he's making it an enthralling time for everybody here at Sandown. He's 41 seconds in arrears, 10 laps, 4.1 seconds a lap, not really on Jim Richards, but Peter Brock doesn't know that and won't stop trying.
No, it's obviously a gap that's too great to catch up on performance alone, but if Peter keeps hanging in there and keeps doing the times he's doing, who knows? You know, Dick last year pulled out with 14 laps to go. You know, crikey, it's not over till the flag falls. Anything can happen.
We've gone past that danger point that brought Johnson undone last year in the race in which he's had pole position for the last 4 years but never won. A race that Brock's won 9 times. There's 9 laps remaining now for Seaton and for third-placed Kevin Waldock and Mike Preston. And one can only raise their hats and salute and say, well done, you lot. Brock, after that amazing problem, the front strut just falling out of the car like one of the corners that holds the car up off the ground, disappearing from its mountings at the very, very early part of the race. It'd be fascinating to know really how on earth that was able to happen. Taking a rest in the pits, this man, this car, and George Fury helping, dominating the race, but not being the only race leader by any means. Brock had that problem on lap 2, but we had several cars lead this race at various stages. Car 17 led it. Dick Johnson in the leading Shell Team car. Car 18 led it at one stage, when on lap 43, Seaton got balked, coming onto the straight past the pits and was overtaken. And then Brock got into this car number 6. And after sitting fairly static in the early part of the race and not making a lot of ground, Seaton in a sense, and there's a spin down the back. It's Larry Perkins in car 11 in 4th place. He's off the second. Holden Commodore is in the kitty litter. Gently, Larry, gently. You won't make it. Tell us, Jim Richards.
No, unfortunately, as soon as you get into that stuff, the wheels just drive the pebbles away and the car sinks deep.
Worrying time for Glenn Seaton and for the people behind him who are here in strength and who next weekend, which is indeed tomorrow as you watch this telecast, will be concerned about the fortunes under another brand name of their World Championship motorcycle riders, Eddie Lawson and Wayne Rainey. And 157 laps completed by Seaton, 158 being done now. So 3 remaining as he crosses the finishing line. Brock's car 05 up front that's just moved up to 4th place. And Seaton well in command. 3 laps remaining. Peter Brock's done a valiant, gutsy, sportsman's job of trying to catch in car number 6. But the task was too big. The Australian Touring Car Champion reigning, winning it this year, Jim Richards, assessed that properly a long, long way back in this race, actually, and said, well, 65 seconds is probably too tall a target to haul back on cars of fairly similar performance. And indeed, this car had been out qualifying Brock during practice, although the gap is now 28.9 seconds, but it's a gap being allowed to narrow to some extent by young Mr. Seaton in 35. Is he looking after the car well, Mr. Richards, your protege from Nissan some while ago?
Yes, no, he's doing a top job. As I say, he's just driving by the lap board. He knows how far Peter's behind him, and he doesn't have to drive any faster than what he's doing now. In actual fact, he can afford to drive a lot slower and still win.
Very welcome win it'll be too, to Glenn Seaton and to George Fury. Glenn, one-time winner of this race. George Fury, twice winner of it, and in 85 they were together. And there are 2 laps remaining now in this Sandown 500. Great crowd, great atmosphere, as this circuit uniquely generates tremendous environs southeast of Melbourne in the Dandenong area. And it is just superb and delightful to see the Melbourne crowds come back in their droves to this, what was one of Australia's great motor racing focal points. In fact, oftentimes this race in past years has drawn bigger crowds than Bathurst. And the enthusiasm of the people in this gigantic grandstand has often been enormous. The atmosphere when they erupt, wave, cheer, groan, when Brock does something right and Johnson does something wrong, has been enormous. And the sheer enormous emotion of when Juan Manuel Fangio came out here in 1978. And Argentinians in the crowd, I think, were close to weeping at the great man's, the 5-time world champion's appearance in the W196 3-litre mid-50s Grand Prix racing car. Just sensational. And Glenn Seaton is on the last lap. Be nothing but cruel and unfair if victory was stolen from him now. It's been a superbly set-up victory by his team, superbly managed finally by him in a major driving role, and in the middle stint by George Fury, the 46, 47-year-old farmer from Talmalmo. Glenn Seaton, son of Beau, who won the Bathurst race long before many of these people in the grandstands were born. That was 1965. And who still plays a vital part in the preparation, the building, testing and development of the Peter Jackson team Ford Sierras. 2-car effort for Bathurst, and the 2 drivers possibly in separate cars, but here it's been the 2 of them combining in an effort in car 35 that's been absolutely trouble-free, and because it's been done that way, it's looked so simple. They've been racing for over 3.5 hours, and they're headed to the finishing flag now. They cannot lose in car 35, the Sandown 500. And a checkered flag waves to the victors, Glenn Seaton and George Fury, back in the pits. Victorious in this 25th Sandown 500 Enduro race. First run in 1964, has missed a couple of years in front of an enormous Melbourne crowd in glorious weather, crisp air, but sun shining. And there the team absolutely reveling. Ken Potter from Philip Morris, Barry Seaton, Glenn's father, there he is, the dark hair to the left of screen, George Fury, who co-drove the car, so many of the boys that were involved, Peter Brock, who's brought his car home into second place in a great fighting display. Congratulations, well fought and argued, Peter Brock. And this car led for all but 18 of the laps. And what a great 3rd place for this car. Mike Preston and the owner and driver of the car, Kevin Waldock, who took up motor racing when he was 4.